Sister's fiancé turned out to be my high school bully who tormented me for years, but she believes his lies over my truth and demands I be her maid of honor. When I refused, my whole family disowned me, including my dad, who said he's done being my father. I am at 29 years old, dealing with something I thought I left behind in high school. My twin sister is engaged to the guy who made my teenage years a living nightmare, and my family thinks I should just get over it. I should start by explaining my family setup. I'm Maya, 29F, and I have a twin sister, Rose, 29F. We're not identical, which my dad used to joke about when we were kids. He would say Rose got all the good genes and I got whatever was left over. He said it like it was funny. It wasn't. We also have 3 older brothers, Michael, 38M, Thomas, 36M, and Christopher, 34M. Our mom, 61F, worked in sales and traveled constantly when we were growing up. Our dad, 65M, was home more, though I'm not sure that was a good thing for me. Rose and I were close when we were very young, but things changed as we got older. She was the twin everyone noticed. Teachers loved her. She won awards for everything. She was on the honor roll every semester. She started dating in middle school while I was still trying to figure out how to talk to people without stuttering. By high school, we had completely different friend groups and barely saw each other except at home. I struggled in school. I was the first person in my family to get diagnosed with a learning disability in 8th grade. I needed extra time on tests and had to leave class for resource room sessions. Dad hated it. He said the school was making excuses for me being lazy. I also developed a stutter around the same time. It only came out when I was stressed or upset, which meant it came out a lot at home. The bullying started in 6th grade. There was this kid named Ryan. His full name was Ryan Scott Mitchell, but everyone called him Scott. His crew targeted me almost immediately. They made fun of the way I dressed. They made fun of my weight. They called me Maya the Whale. They called me other names I don't want to repeat. Scott was the ringleader. He was the one who came up with most of the names. He was the one who got everyone else laughing. In 8th grade, it got worse. Scott and his friends started comparing me to Rose constantly. They would see me in the hallway and ask where my pretty twin was. They would make jokes about how we couldn't possibly be related. One time, Scott saw Rose talking to some guy she liked and made a big show of asking me if I was jealous that guys actually wanted to talk to her. I went to the bathroom and cried for an hour. The worst part was that nobody believed me when I tried to tell them what was happening. I tried once in 9th grade. A teacher found me in the bathroom, and I was forcing myself to throw up because Scott had called me a fat cow in front of half the cafeteria. The teacher brought me to the counselor's office. I told them everything. They called Scott in to talk. He cried. He said I had been bullying him for months and he finally snapped and said something mean back. His friends all backed him up. They said I had been harassing Scott since middle school. The school believed him. I got suspended from the soccer team for 2 weeks. I had to write an apology letter to Scott. My parents grounded me for a month. Dad sat me down and told me I was becoming a problem child. He said I was making trouble for attention because I couldn't get attention the normal way like Rose did. He said it was embarrassing. I stopped trying to report anything after that. The bullying continued through 10th and 11th grade. Scott and his friends would trip me in the hallways. They would knock my books out of my hands. They would wait until I was walking past them to say something horrible just loud enough for me to hear. Scott once poured chocolate milk on my backpack and told everyone I had an accident. I started taking different routes to class just to avoid them. I ate lunch in the library. I skipped pep rallies and assemblies where I knew they would be. Senior year was different. Scott's mom died in a car accident in October. He missed almost the entire first semester. When he came back after Christmas, he was quieter. He didn't bother me anymore. His friends had moved on to other targets. I had the best second semester of my entire high school experience. I felt terrible about his mom. I'm not a monster. But I also felt like I could finally breathe. After graduation, I moved 2 states away for college. I came home for holidays and major family events, but I built a completely new life. I became a teacher. I work with middle schoolers now, and I try to be the adult I needed when I was their age. I have a best friend named Kira, 29F, who lives 20 minutes away. We see each other at least twice a week. I worked really hard on myself. I joined a support group in college for people with eating disorders. I stopped purging by the time I was 22. I stopped cutting by the time I was 24. I learned how to communicate when I was upset instead of shutting down. It took years. It took a lot of work. I'm not perfect, but I'm functional now. I don't talk to my family as much as I used to. Everyone is busy with their own lives. Michael got married and has 2 kids. Thomas is engaged. Christopher just bought a house. Rose became a nurse and then went back to school to become a nurse practitioner. She volunteers at a homeless shelter on weekends. She has a successful Etsy store where she sells handmade jewelry. She has a TikTok account with over 50,000 followers where she posts nursing tips and lifestyle content. She's doing great. I'm genuinely proud of her. About a year ago, Rose started dating someone new. She called me and said she had met the one. She sent me pictures. He was a big guy with a beard and sunglasses in every photo. He had tattoos covering both arms. He drove a pickup truck. His name was Scott. She said he was a veteran. She said he was sweet and funny and treated her like a princess. I looked him up online. I found a LinkedIn profile. It said he was a former Marine who did contract work overseas and now owned a small business consulting firm. The last name was Mitchell. I felt my stomach drop, but I told myself it was a common last name. It couldn't be the same person. Dad and Michael met Scott before I did. They both said he was a stand-up guy. Thomas met him next and said the same thing. They all loved him. Rose kept gushing about him. She said he was the best thing that ever happened to her. Then came Easter this year. Rose called me the week before. She said Scott was coming to Easter dinner at Mom and Dad's house. She said she had to tell me something. She said Scott actually goes by his middle name. His first name is Ryan. I asked her if his last name was Mitchell. She said yes. I asked her where he grew up. She named our hometown. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I told Rose that Ryan Scott Mitchell bullied me throughout middle school and high school. I didn't go into details. I just said he made my life miserable and I didn't want to see him. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said she didn't realize until their fourth date when he mentioned our high school. She said by then she had already developed feelings. She said she didn't know what to do. She said she loved him. She asked if we could all just move past it. I told her I needed time to think. She showed up to Easter anyway with Scott. He walked in and saw me and said it had been a long time. He asked if I remembered him. I said I did. I kept my distance the entire day. I left early. Rose texted me afterward asking why I was being rude. I didn't respond. This continued through Mother's Day, Father's Day, and my brother Thomas's birthday party. I showed up to family events. I was polite. I didn't make scenes. But I didn't talk to Scott, and I didn't pretend everything was fine. Two of my brothers pulled me aside at different times and asked why I was being cold to Scott. They said I seemed upset that Rose was getting serious with someone. I told them the truth. I told them Scott bullied me in school. Michael didn't say much. Thomas and Christopher both looked uncomfortable. They said they didn't know. They said they would think about it. Then in June, during a Juneteenth cookout at my parents' house, Scott proposed to Rose in front of everyone. Mom screamed. Dad opened champagne. Everyone was celebrating. I stayed for an hour and then left. Rose barely looked at me. A few weeks later, Rose asked me to meet her for drinks. She said she didn't understand why I was avoiding her. I told her I loved her but it was hard to be around Scott. She seemed relieved. She said she understood and that I wouldn't have to spend much time with him at the wedding. Then she started talking about bridesmaid dresses. I stopped her. I said I didn't think I could be her maid of honor. I said I wasn't comfortable. She stared at me. Then she asked if I planned to avoid Scott for the rest of their lives. She asked what I was going to do when they had kids. She started crying. She said I was ruining everything over something I was remembering wrong. She said I was forcing her to choose between her sister and the man she loved. I asked what she meant by remembering wrong. She said she talked to Scott about it. She said he told her the truth. She said I was the one who bullied him in school. She said his friends confirmed it. She said he felt terrible about the one time he snapped at me, but I had been tormenting him for years. She said he had been trying to be nice to me at family events even though I made him uncomfortable. I just stared at her. It was the same thing he did in 9th grade. He lied. He spun the story. He made himself the victim. And everyone believed him again. I tried to explain. I told her about the names. I told her about the bathroom incident. I told her about the milk on my backpack. She kept shaking her head. She said that was so long ago and maybe I was confused. She asked if Scott could apologize to me for bullying me, and she said the word bullying with this tone like she didn't believe it. I told her she didn't have to believe me, but I couldn't be her maid of honor. Christopher and Thomas came over and broke up the conversation before it could get worse. The next day, Dad drove me to the airport. He said he hoped I would think about what was more important, my perception of things or my family. He said I was making trouble again. He said when he and Mom were gone, Rose and my brothers were all I would have left. He said I needed to stop being selfish. I didn't say anything. I got on the plane and went home. A few days later, Rose added me to a group chat with some of her friends. The first message said the wedding party had decided to make me the maid of honor. She didn't ask. She just announced it like it was already decided. My brothers started texting me separately. Michael said I should just get over myself. Thomas and Christopher were quieter, but they didn't defend me either. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my sister. I don't want to lose my family. But I also can't stand next to Scott at a wedding and pretend he didn't make me hate myself for 4 years. I can't smile in pictures with him. I can't give a speech about how happy I am for them. I don't know if anyone will believe me. I don't know if it even matters anymore. I'm looking for advice. Am I wrong to refuse to be maid of honor? Should I just do it to keep the peace? Is there any way to make my family understand? Update 1. It has been 3 weeks since I posted. I didn't expect so many people to respond. I read every comment. Some of you told me to stand firm. Some of you told me to cut off my family entirely. Some of you said I should just suck it up for one day. I appreciate all of it. I want to update you on what's happened since then. The day after I posted, my brother Christopher called me. He said he wanted to hear the whole story. I told him everything. I told him about Scott calling me names every single day. I told him about the bathroom incident and the suspension. I told him about Dad calling me defective. Christopher was quiet the whole time. When I finished, he said he believed me. He said he was sorry he didn't know sooner. He said he wished I had told him when it was happening. I explained that I tried telling people and it only made things worse. He said he understood. 2 days later, Thomas texted me asking if we could talk. I called him. He said Christopher had filled him in on some of it and he wanted to hear it from me directly. I went through the whole thing again. It was exhausting. Thomas kept asking questions. He wanted specific examples. He wanted dates. He wanted names of other people who were there. I gave him what I could remember. By the end of the call, my stutter was back. I hadn't stuttered in almost a year. Thomas said he needed time to process everything, but he believed me. Then Mom called. She usually texts, so I knew something was up. She asked me point blank what was going on with Scott. I told her the basics. I told her he bullied me in school and I didn't feel safe around him. She asked why Rose didn't know about this. I explained that Rose and I weren't close in high school. We had different schedules. We were in different homerooms because the school thought we were too codependent in elementary school. I had speech therapy and resource room sessions that took me out of regular classes. Rose had honors classes and activities. We barely saw each other during the school day. Mom was quiet for a minute. Then she asked why I never told her and Dad. I reminded her that I did try to tell them in 9th grade and I got grounded. She said she didn't remember it that way. She said if it was that bad, I should have tried harder to make them understand. I didn't know what to say to that. She said we would talk more later and hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I threw up twice even though I hadn't eaten anything. I kept thinking about 9th grade. I kept thinking about the bathroom. I kept thinking about Scott's face when he cried in the counselor's office and everyone believed him. I called Kira at 2 a.m. She came over and stayed the rest of the night. She didn't ask questions. She just sat with me. The next day, Kira made me cancel all my plans. She said we were going out. She took me to brunch, then to a bookstore, then to a movie. She created this whole itinerary to keep me distracted. It worked until Dad called. He called 3 times in a row. I finally answered. He didn't bother with small talk. He said I needed to fix this. He said I needed to take responsibility for being a difficult child and stop blaming everyone else for my problems. He said I was lying to Mom to make Scott look bad because I was jealous of Rose. He said it was embarrassing. He said Scott had been trying to make amends and I was throwing it back in his face. He said he was deeply disappointed in me. I tried to tell him it wasn't like that. He talked over me. He said I was rewriting history to avoid taking responsibility for myself. He said I had always been the problem child and this was just another example. He said I needed to grow up and apologize to Rose and Scott. Then he hung up. I started crying right there in the restaurant. Kira saw my face and immediately got the check. She got me to the car. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't catch my breath. Kira asked what happened. I couldn't talk. The stutter was so bad I couldn't get words out. She just held my hand and waited. When I finally calmed down enough to explain, Kira was furious. She asked if she could see my phone. I unlocked it and handed it to her. She went into the family group chat and typed out a message from her own number. She said I was telling the truth. She said she knew because she was there. She said she saw Scott slap me in the hallway in 10th grade. She said she saw him throw a basketball at my head in gym class. She said she saw him corner me after school and call me names I won't repeat here. She said if Dad wanted to call her a liar, he could call her directly. About an hour later, Mom sent a message in the group chat asking everyone to get on a video call that evening. I checked the chat. Dad had deleted all of his messages. The only thing left was one final text that said he wouldn't be discussing this with me anymore and I should talk to Mom about it. He said he was done. I called him. I told him I hated that I upset him, but I swore I was telling the truth. He said if it was true, then I lied by hiding it all these years and now I was trying to make him look like a bad father. He said he was over it. Then he said if he was such a bad father, he wouldn't bother being my father anymore since that was clearly what I wanted. He hung up. I haven't heard from him since. That was 2 weeks ago. The video call that night was brutal. Mom, Rose, Michael, Thomas, and Christopher were all there. Dad wasn't. Mom asked me to explain one more time what happened with Scott. I went through it again. Rose kept shaking her head. She said Scott told her a completely different story. She said his version made more sense because I had always been troubled and he had always been a good kid. Michael agreed with her. He said Scott seemed like a solid guy and it was hard to believe he would do the things I was describing. Thomas and Christopher both said they believed me. Thomas said he remembered me being miserable in high school. He said he remembered me losing weight and being anxious all the time. Christopher said he remembered me coming home crying multiple times. Rose said I was always dramatic and they were remembering wrong. Mom tried to mediate. She said maybe there was truth on both sides. She said maybe Scott and I had a mutual conflict and we both remembered it differently. She asked if I could talk to Scott directly and clear the air. I said no. She asked why not. I said because he lied in 9th grade and got me suspended, and he was lying now. She said I was being stubborn. Rose started crying. She said I was ruining the happiest time of her life. She said all she wanted was her sister by her side on her wedding day. She said if I really loved her, I would find a way to make this work. Michael said I should just do the maid of honor thing and keep my distance from Scott otherwise. He said it was one day and I could handle it. I said no. I said I couldn't do it. Rose said I was a selfish person and she didn't know why she even wanted me there. Mom told her not to say that. Rose logged off. Michael logged off right after her. Mom said we would talk later and ended the call. I haven't spoken to Rose since. I haven't spoken to Michael either. Thomas and Christopher have both checked in on me a few times. Mom texts me every few days with updates about wedding planning like nothing happened. She keeps asking if I've changed my mind about being maid of honor. I keep saying no. She keeps saying she hopes I'll reconsider. Dad still hasn't called. I tried calling him twice. He didn't answer. I texted him. He didn't respond. Thomas told me Dad is telling people I'm going through something and he's giving me space. Christopher said Dad told him I accused him of being a bad father and he's hurt. I don't know how to fix that. The wedding is in 4 months. Rose sent out save the dates last week. Mine came in the mail with a note that said she's still holding the maid of honor spot for me if I come to my senses. I threw the note away. I'm not going to change my mind. I don't know if my family will ever forgive me for this. I don't know if I care anymore. Update to it has been 2 months since my last update. The wedding is now 2 months away. Things have gotten worse. About 3 weeks after the video call, Rose showed up at my apartment. I didn't know she was coming. She knocked on the door on a Saturday morning. I almost didn't answer because I wasn't expecting anyone, but I looked through the peephole and saw her. I opened the door. She was crying. She asked if we could talk. I let her in. She sat on my couch and said she missed me. She said she hated fighting. She said she wanted her sister back. I told her I missed her too. Then she said she needed me to understand how hard this was for her. She said she was in love with Scott and planning a wedding and her sister wouldn't even be there for her. She said it wasn't fair. I told her it wasn't fair that she expected me to stand next to the man who tormented me for years. She said I was exaggerating. She said Scott told her he maybe teased me a few times but it wasn't that serious. She said he apologized for whatever he did wrong. I asked when he apologized. She said he told her he would apologize to me if I agreed to be maid of honor. I told her that wasn't an apology. She said I was being difficult on purpose. She said everyone else had moved on from high school except me. She said I was holding on to grudges. She said she talked to some people from our high school and they said Scott was a nice guy. I asked who she talked to. She rattled off 3 names. All 3 of them were Scott's friends. I told her that. She said I was paranoid. We argued for an hour. She finally left. She said she hoped I would grow up before the wedding. I didn't respond. A few days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. It was Scott. He said Rose gave him my number. He said he wanted to clear the air. I asked him how he got my personal number without my permission. He said Rose thought it would help if we talked. I told him I had nothing to say to him. He said he was sorry if I felt like he was mean to me in high school. He said he was just a dumb kid and he didn't mean anything by it. I asked him if he remembered calling me Maya the whale. He was quiet. Then he said he didn't remember that. I asked him if he remembered pouring chocolate milk on my backpack. He said that sounded like something that might have happened but he didn't remember doing it. I asked him if he remembered telling the school counselor that I was bullying him. He said he remembered being called into the office but he didn't remember the details. He said we were both kids and we both probably said things we regretted. I told him he was lying. He said I was being unfair. He said he was trying to apologize and I wasn't letting him. I told him his apology meant nothing because he was still lying about what happened. He sighed. He said he didn't know what I wanted from him. I said I wanted him to admit what he did. He said he already did. I said no. He said he might have teased me. He said that was the same thing. I hung up. Rose called me an hour later. She was furious. She said Scott called her crying. She said I attacked him and brought up things from over a decade ago. She said he was trying to make peace and I threw it in his face. She said I was a bitter person who couldn't let anyone else be happy. She said she didn't want me at her wedding anymore. She said she would find someone else to be maid of honor. She said she was done trying with me. I didn't call her back. I didn't text her. I didn't reach out to anyone. I just went to work and came home and existed. 2 weeks ago, Thomas called. He said he had coffee with Scott. He said he wanted to give Scott a chance to explain himself. I asked why. Thomas said because Rose was marrying him and he wanted to make sure he understood both sides. He said Scott seemed genuine. He said Scott admitted he was a jerk in high school but he had grown up. He said Scott seemed remorseful. I asked Thomas if Scott admitted to the specific things he did. Thomas said Scott didn't remember a lot of details but he said he was sorry for whatever hurt he caused. I asked Thomas if he believed me. Thomas said he did, but he also thought people could change. He said Scott did 2 tours in Afghanistan. He said Scott saw things that changed him. He said maybe Scott really was different now. I asked Thomas if that meant I should just forgive him. Thomas said he didn't know. He said he understood why I couldn't be maid of honor but maybe I could still come to the wedding as a guest. I told Thomas I would think about it. I'm not going to the wedding. I've decided. I know what that means. It means Rose and I might never speak again. It means Dad won't speak to me. It means Michael probably won't either. It means every family holiday will be awkward. It means I'm choosing my boundary over my family. Mom called me yesterday. She said she heard I'm not coming to the wedding. I confirmed. She asked me to reconsider. She said this was Rose's day and I should put my feelings aside. I said I tried to do that and it didn't work. She said I didn't try hard enough. She said I was being selfish and I was going to regret this for the rest of my life. She said Rose was her daughter too and she was choosing to support Rose's happiness. She said she hoped I could do the same someday. I told Mom I loved her. She said she loved me too but she was disappointed in me. She hung up. Kira says I'm doing the right thing. She says my family is asking me to set myself on fire to keep Rose warm. She says I deserve better. I don't know if she's right. I just know I can't go to that wedding. I can't watch Scott become a permanent part of my family. I can't pretend everything is fine. Christopher is the only one still talking to me regularly. He calls every few days to check in. He's going to the wedding because he doesn't want to abandon Rose, but he told me he understands why I'm not going. He said he's sorry this is happening. He said it's not fair. None of this is fair. Update 3: The wedding happened last week. I didn't go. I'm writing this to close the chapter on everything that's happened. The week before the wedding, I got a long email from Rose. She said she had been thinking about everything. She said she understood why I was hurt but she didn't understand why I couldn't move past it. She said she had forgiven people who hurt her in the past and I should try to do the same. She said holding on to anger was only hurting me. She said she would always love me but she couldn't have someone in her life who couldn't support her marriage. She said after the wedding, she needed space from me. She said maybe in a few years we could try again, but right now it was too painful. I didn't respond to the email. There was nothing left to say. Christopher went to the wedding. He texted me a few times during the reception. He said Rose looked beautiful. He said the ceremony was nice. He said Scott's vows made everyone cry. He said Dad gave a speech about how proud he was of Rose for finding such a good man. He said Mom cried through the whole thing. He said Michael was the best man. He said Rose's friend from nursing school was the maid of honor. He said nobody mentioned me. The day after the wedding, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was one of Rose's friends from the wedding. She said she heard about what happened between Rose and me. She said she went to our high school too. She said she remembered Scott and his friends. She said she was in my math class sophomore year and she saw Scott trip me and then laugh about it. She said she always thought he was a jerk. She said she was sorry she never said anything. She said she told Rose at the reception that she remembered Scott being mean to me. She said Rose told her she was wrong and asked her to drop it. I thanked her for reaching out. I didn't know what else to say. Thomas called me a few days after the wedding. He said things were tense at the reception. He said Dad didn't talk about me but people kept asking where I was. He said Rose told people I couldn't make it due to work. He said he tried to talk to Rose about me at one point and she shut him down immediately. He said Christopher tried to and got the same response. He said it seemed like Rose had made up her mind to cut me out. Yesterday, Mom called. She said she wanted to clear the air. She said the wedding was beautiful but it was hard knowing I wasn't there. She said Rose was hurt that I didn't even send a card. I didn't tell her that I did buy a card but threw it away because I couldn't figure out what to write. Mom said she hoped time would heal things between Rose and me. She said family was family and eventually we would all find a way back to each other. She said Dad was still upset but she thought he would come around eventually. I asked her if she believed me about Scott. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said it didn't matter anymore what happened in high school. She said what mattered was that Rose was happy now. She said I needed to accept that. I told her I did accept it. I just couldn't be part of it. She said that was sad. I agreed. I'm not expecting any grand reconciliation. I'm not expecting Rose to suddenly believe me or Dad to apologize. I'm not expecting my family to choose me over Scott. I know how this ends. Rose and Scott will have kids someday. My family will go to birthday parties and holidays with them. I won't be there. I'll see pictures on social media. I'll hear updates from Christopher and Thomas. I'll watch my nieces and nephews grow up from a distance. Kira keeps telling me I made the right choice. She says protecting myself was more important than keeping the peace. Some days I believe her. Some days I don't. Most days I just feel tired. I've started looking into moving. There's a teaching position open in another state. It's a good school with a better salary. Kira is upset about the idea of me leaving, but she understands. She said she would visit. I believe her. I don't regret not going to the wedding. I regret that it came to this. I regret that my family couldn't see what Scott did to me. I regret that Rose chose him over me. I regret that Dad would rather lose a daughter than admit he was wrong. I regret a lot of things. But I don't regret standing firm. I got a text from Dad this morning. It was the first time he's contacted me since he said he was done being my father. The text said he hoped I was doing okay. That was it. Nothing else. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's an olive branch or just guilt. I haven't responded yet. I don't know if I will. Christopher says he'll keep trying to talk to Rose about me. He says he won't give up on us figuring this out. I told him not to waste his energy. He said I was his sister and it wasn't a waste. I didn't argue with him. I'm moving in 6 weeks. I've already given notice at my school. I've started packing. Kira helped me pack up my kitchen last weekend. She kept making jokes to keep the mood light, but I could tell she was sad. I'm sad too. But I can't stay here anymore. Everything reminds me of what I lost. Maybe in another state, with another job, with a fresh start, I'll stop thinking about what could have been different. Maybe I'll stop wondering if I should have just sucked it up and been maid of honor. Maybe I'll stop checking my phone hoping Rose will text me. Maybe I'll stop waiting for Dad to call. Or maybe I won't. Maybe this is just what my life is now. Maybe I'll carry this with me wherever I go. Maybe that's okay. People keep asking me if I'm okay. I tell them I am. I don't know if that's true. I go to work. I see Kira. I pack boxes. I make plans. I function. That's enough for now. I don't know what happens next. I just know I'm not going back. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My wife's half-sister made advances on me, then tried to steal a valuable watch collection, and finally stole our baby's name. I, 33M, just caught my wife's half-sister trying to steal a valuable family heirloom from our house. Last night, my wife Penny, 33F, invited her mother Laura, 56F, and half-sister Vanessa, 26F, over for dinner. I was out picking up food when I returned to find Vanessa sneaking out our front door with my wife's grandfather's antique watch collection. When my headlights hit her, she dropped the wooden box containing the watches and ran to her mother's car. The box cracked open on our driveway, scattering several watches worth thousands of dollars across the concrete. When I yelled, Penny and Laura came running out. Laura immediately started screaming that Penny didn't deserve the watches anyway. When I stepped between them, Laura scratched my face hard enough to draw blood, then she and Vanessa sped away as Penny called the police. This incident was just the latest in a long series of problems with my wife's maternal family, but it feels like the final straw. I need some perspective on whether we're handling this situation correctly. Some background: my wife Penny grew up in a difficult home environment. Her parents divorced when she was 4 years old. Her mother Laura quickly remarried to a man named Doug, who was emotionally and physically abusive to Penny. When Penny was 7, Laura and Doug had Vanessa. From that point forward, Vanessa became the golden child while Penny was constantly neglected. Penny's biological father, Richard, is a genuinely good man. When Penny turned 13, she asked to live with him full-time. Laura threw a massive fit about this, but her main concern wasn't Penny's well-being, it was losing the child support payments from Richard. Despite Laura's protests, Penny moved in with her dad and had minimal contact with her mother's household during her teen years. I met Penny in college when we were both 19. We've been together for 14 years now, married for 9. From the day Laura met me, she made it clear I wasn't good enough for her daughter. She repeatedly told Penny she could do better than me, usually meaning someone with more money. The fact that I have a stable job as an accountant, own our house, and have never mistreated Penny means nothing to Laura. Vanessa grew up being spoiled constantly. She rarely faced consequences for her actions and developed an entitled attitude. When I first met her, she was a teenager who barely acknowledged my existence. After she turned 18, Vanessa began visiting our house more frequently. Penny was hopeful they could develop a better relationship as adults, so she welcomed these visits. About 2 years into these visits, Vanessa's behavior toward me changed dramatically. She started wearing revealing clothes around me, complimenting my appearance excessively, and finding excuses to touch me. Once, she grabbed my arm and commented on my muscles. I brushed these incidents off until she tried to put her hand on my leg while Penny was in the kitchen. I immediately stood up and told her that behavior was unacceptable. Penny witnessed this and confronted her sister, resulting in a huge argument where Vanessa told Penny she didn't deserve me. Vanessa stormed out, and Penny was devastated. Despite this incident, Laura insisted we should all continue attending family gatherings. At one Thanksgiving dinner, Vanessa and her cousin Megan cornered me in the hallway and suggested we have some fun upstairs. I declined firmly and immediately told Penny. When Penny confronted them, Laura jumped to Vanessa's defense, accusing me of lying to cause drama. We left the gathering early. 2 years ago, Penny's paternal grandfather passed away. He left his extensive vintage watch collection to Penny. These watches had been in his family for generations, some dating back to the 1800s. The collection was appraised at over $150,000, partly due to their historical significance. They came in a handcrafted wooden box that itself was a family heirloom. Laura and Vanessa attended the will reading and were furious that Penny received such a valuable inheritance while they got nothing. Laura threatened to contest the will but never followed through. Recently, Laura seemed to have a change of heart and started being nicer to us. Penny, always wanting to believe the best in people, decided to give them another chance. That brings us to last night's attempted theft, which clearly showed their true intentions. After the police documented everything, they arrested Laura and Vanessa. The charges were serious, but they ultimately received only community service and fines. I spent $600 getting the antique box professionally restored, and I confronted Laura, demanding she reimburse me. I threatened a civil lawsuit using the police report as evidence. She wrote a check immediately. As if the theft wasn't enough, we're now dealing with another issue. After 4 years of trying to conceive, Penny and I are expecting a baby boy. We decided to name him after my Scottish grandfather, James William. When we announced this on social media, Vanessa, who was already 7 months pregnant with a boy, immediately claimed she was going to use the exact same name for her son. We called Vanessa, upset about this obvious attempt to cause problems. She smugly replied that there was nothing we could do about it since no one owns a name. Her boyfriend Mark called me later, threatening that I'd be sorry if we didn't choose a different name. We refused to change our plans. Vanessa gave birth 2 months ago and named her son James William, despite having no family connection to the name. When she called demanding congratulations, we told her directly that we still intended to use the name for our son. Vanessa sent lists of alternative names, but we remained firm that we would use my grandfather's name as planned. Now our son has been born, and we named him James William as intended. Vanessa called screaming that we copied her son's name. Penny finally told Vanessa that after the watch theft attempt, she no longer considered her a sister and wanted nothing to do with her or her child. The situation has caused a major division in Penny's maternal family. Some relatives support us after learning the full history, while others side with Laura and Vanessa. Mark showed up at our house making threats, but backed down when I pointed out our security cameras. Now Laura, Vanessa, and several other relatives keep calling and messaging us, demanding we change our son's name and pay for counseling for Vanessa. We've blocked their numbers and social media accounts. Penny's father Richard visits regularly and has a wonderful relationship with our son. We're considering getting a restraining order against Laura and Vanessa if the harassment continues. Am I wrong for refusing to change our son's name? Should we try one more time to reconcile with Laura and Vanessa for family harmony? Or is cutting contact completely the right move? Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since my original post, and the situation with my wife's family has escalated beyond what I could have imagined. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and advice. Many of you suggested getting a restraining order against Laura and Vanessa, which we are now in the process of doing. The day after I posted, Mark showed up at our house again. This time, he was clearly intoxicated and started pounding on our front door at 11 p.m. while our newborn was sleeping. I called the police immediately. Through the door, I could hear him shouting about how we ruined Vanessa's life by stealing their baby's name. The police arrived quickly and took him away. He was charged with disorderly conduct and public intoxication. 2 days later, we received an unexpected visit from Penny's cousin Megan. She claimed she wanted to make peace, so Penny reluctantly invited her in while I stayed with our son in another room. Within minutes, their conversation turned heated. Megan revealed that Vanessa and Laura had been spreading vicious rumors about us throughout the family. According to Megan, Laura told everyone that I had been inappropriate with Vanessa when she was a teenager, and that's why I made up the story about her trying to touch me. They also claimed that our son might not be mine because of our fertility struggles, suggesting Penny had an affair. The most disturbing rumor was that I was planning to leave Penny once she turned 40 because I'm only attracted to younger women. When Penny confronted Megan about believing these lies, Megan admitted she came to our house to gather information for Laura and Vanessa. She had her phone in her pocket recording our entire conversation. Penny immediately asked her to leave, but Megan refused, demanding we pay Vanessa $500 for the cost of changing her son's name plus extra for emotional distress. I heard the commotion and came into the room. When I told Megan to leave our property immediately, she pulled out her phone and started recording me openly, trying to provoke a reaction. I remained calm, pointed to our security cameras, and informed her she was trespassing. She finally left, but not before threatening that the family would make us pay for what we'd done. Later that evening, we started receiving calls and texts from various family members who had seen edited clips from Megan's recording. The clips were manipulated to make it seem like we were threatening her. We decided to go to the police the next morning to report the harassment and file for the restraining order. When we arrived at the police station, we were shocked to find that Laura had already been there and filed a report claiming we had threatened her and Vanessa. The officer we spoke with seemed skeptical of Laura's claims, especially when we showed him our security footage of Megan's visit and Mark's drunken appearance at our door. While dealing with the legal aspects, we received an email from Vanessa with surprising news. She and Mark had broken up after a massive fight about their son's name. According to Vanessa, Mark wanted their son named after his father instead of using my grandfather's name. He was tired of the drama and felt Vanessa had chosen the name purely out of spite. Vanessa blamed us entirely for her relationship problems and demanded we pay for the legal name change she was now pursuing, plus additional money for therapy. We ignored the email, but the next day, an envelope arrived in our mailbox containing documents for a small claims court case. Laura and Vanessa were suing us for $5,000, claiming emotional distress and financial hardship resulting from the name dispute. Their filing contained numerous false statements, including a claim that we had promised to change our son's name but reneged after their son's birth certificate was finalized. We hired a lawyer who assured us the case had no merit, but we would still need to appear in court to defend ourselves. The court date was set for next month. In the meantime, we installed additional security cameras around our property and started documenting every interaction with Laura, Vanessa, or any of their allies. The situation took another bizarre turn when we discovered that someone had created fake social media profiles using our names and photos. These profiles were posting inflammatory comments on family members' pages, making it appear we were harassing them. We reported the profiles to the platforms and filed another police report for identity theft. Through all this chaos, we've maintained our stance on our son's name. James William remains his legal name, and we have no intention of changing it. Penny's father Richard has been incredibly supportive, even offering to let us stay at his house if we felt unsafe. We declined but appreciated his concern. One positive development: several of Penny's maternal relatives who initially sided with Laura have reached out to apologize after seeing the extent of the harassment campaign against us. Penny's Aunt Carol, Laura's sister, called to say she had witnessed Laura and Vanessa planning to destroy our reputation at a family gathering. Carol had previously been close to Laura but was disturbed by her vindictive behavior. Carol also revealed something that explained Laura's extreme reaction to the watch collection inheritance. Apparently, Laura had already promised several of the watches to various people, including Vanessa, before the will was even read. She had told everyone that she would inherit the collection since she was once married to Penny's father. When the watches went to Penny instead, Laura was embarrassed and angry at having to explain to these people that she had promised something that was never hers to give. We're exhausted by the constant drama, but we remain united. Our son is thriving despite the chaos around him, and we're determined to protect him from his grandmother and aunt's toxic influence. The restraining order should be finalized soon, which will give us some legal protection from their harassment. For now, we're focusing on caring for our son and each other. We've temporarily disabled our social media accounts and asked trusted friends and family to refrain from sharing information about us online. Our lawyer advised us to continue documenting everything but otherwise limit our engagement with Laura, Vanessa, or anyone acting on their behalf. The small claims court date is approaching, and we're prepared to defend ourselves against their baseless accusations. I'll update again after the hearing. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I want to share some significant developments in our ongoing family drama. First, the small claims court case was dismissed. When the judge reviewed our evidence, including the security camera footage and text messages from Laura and Vanessa, he quickly determined their claims were without merit. Our lawyer presented documentation showing that we had announced our son's name choice before Vanessa decided to use it, as well as the police report from the attempted theft of the watch collection. Laura and Vanessa appeared shocked when the judge not only dismissed their case but also ordered them to pay our legal fees. Outside the courthouse, Laura attempted to confront Penny, but our lawyer intervened. We left without engaging, which seemed to frustrate Laura even more. As we were driving away, we saw her screaming at Vanessa in the parking lot. A week after the court case, we received a package in the mail containing a formal apology letter from Vanessa. The letter stated that she had legally changed her son's name to Marcus John, after her boyfriend's father, and acknowledged that she had chosen James William solely to upset us. She claimed she was turning over a new leaf and wanted to repair her relationship with Penny. We were skeptical of this sudden change of heart, especially since the letter ended with another request for money to cover the name change costs. We did not respond. 3 days later, we discovered why Vanessa had apparently changed her tune. Through Richard, we learned that Mark had filed for full custody of their son, citing Vanessa's unstable behavior and involvement in family harassment as evidence that she was an unfit mother. He had gathered statements from several family members about Vanessa's obsession with causing problems for us, and had even obtained copies of the police report from the watch theft incident. Vanessa was desperate to present herself as reasonable and mature before the custody hearing. Her apology to us wasn't sincere, it was a calculated move to create evidence of her improved behavior that she could show the court. The custody situation explained another strange incident that occurred around the same time. Laura showed up at Richard's house unannounced, crying and claiming she wanted to reconcile with Penny. Richard, being the kind man he is, called Penny to tell her about Laura's visit. Penny was immediately suspicious, as this behavior was completely out of character for her mother. Richard invited us to come over while Laura was still there, but we declined, suggesting instead that if Laura was truly interested in reconciliation, she could write a letter explaining her actions and apologizing. Richard relayed this to Laura, who became agitated and demanded he convince Penny to meet with her in person. When Richard refused to pressure Penny, Laura revealed her true motivation. She wanted Penny to write a character reference letter for Vanessa's custody case, stating that Vanessa was a loving sister and would be a good mother. Laura actually had the audacity to say that despite past misunderstandings, family should stick together in times of need. Richard told Laura that after everything she and Vanessa had put Penny through, the years of neglect, the theft attempt, the name stealing, the false rumors, and the lawsuit, she couldn't possibly expect Penny to help them now. Laura stormed out, calling Richard a traitor for siding with Penny. Meanwhile, Megan continued her role as Laura and Vanessa's loyal soldier. She created a private family Facebook group specifically to discuss the James Williams situation, as they were calling it. One of Penny's cousins who had joined the group was uncomfortable with the hateful comments being posted and sent us screenshots. The group members were planning ways to pressure us into helping with Vanessa's custody case, including suggestions to contact my employer with false accusations or to report us to Child Protective Services with fabricated concerns. When one relative pointed out that these actions could be considered harassment or defamation, Megan replied that we deserved what was coming to us for stealing Vanessa's baby's name. We forwarded these screenshots to our lawyer, who sent cease and desist letters to everyone participating in the group. The Facebook group was deleted shortly afterward. As for the restraining order we filed, it was granted against Laura, Vanessa, and Megan. The judge was particularly concerned by the escalating pattern of harassment and the threats made in the Facebook group. The restraining order prohibits them from contacting us directly, coming to our home or workplaces, or using third parties to relay messages. Despite the legal protection, we still experienced some harassment. Anonymous packages began arriving at our house, baby items with James Williams' name crossed out and replaced with name thief or copycat. We installed a doorbell camera that captured footage of Megan's husband dropping off one of these packages. We reported this violation of the restraining order, and Megan was fined. Through all of this, we maintained our focus on our family. James William is growing quickly and brings us joy every day. Richard visits weekly and has become an even more important part of our lives. He recently confided that he's grateful Penny chose to live with him as a teenager, as it allowed him to protect her from Laura's toxic influence during her formative years. Vanessa's custody hearing is scheduled for next month. While we have no desire to get involved, we've heard through family that Mark has substantial evidence of Vanessa's unstable behavior, including her obsession with our son's name and the theft attempt. Laura is frantically trying to rebuild Vanessa's image in the family, but many relatives have distanced themselves after seeing how far they were willing to go in their vendetta against us. We're still maintaining no contact with Laura, Vanessa, and their allies. The restraining order has given us some peace, but we remain vigilant. Our lawyer advised us to keep all documentation in case they attempt another legal action against us. I'll update again after we hear the outcome of Vanessa's custody hearing, as I suspect it may trigger another round of harassment or accusations from Laura. Update 3, final. It's been 4 months since my last update, and I believe this will be my final post on this situation. A lot has happened, and we've finally reached a resolution of sorts. First, regarding Vanessa's custody battle, Mark was awarded primary custody of their son, now legally named Marcus John. Vanessa received supervised visitation rights, which was a devastating blow to her. According to Richard, who heard this from other family members, the judge was concerned about evidence showing Vanessa's pattern of vindictive behavior and poor decision-making. Our situation with the baby name was presented as evidence, along with the attempted theft of the watch collection. 2 weeks after the custody ruling, Laura appeared at our door despite the restraining order. Our security system alerted us to her presence, and we called the police without opening the door. Through the door, we could hear Laura alternating between pleading and threatening. She blamed us for Vanessa losing custody and demanded we write a letter to the court explaining that the whole situation was a misunderstanding. When the police arrived, Laura was arrested for violating the restraining order. The court took this violation seriously, especially since Laura had previously received only minor consequences for the watch theft. She was sentenced to 30 days in jail, which shocked everyone in the family. Many relatives who had been on the fence about whose side to take finally saw how unhinged Laura's behavior had become. During Laura's jail time, something unexpected happened. Vanessa contacted Richard, not to ask him to relay a message to us, but to actually apologize to him for her behavior. Richard met with her at a public location and reported that she seemed genuinely remorseful. According to Richard, Vanessa admitted that she had been raised to believe she deserved whatever she wanted, regardless of how it affected others. Losing custody of her son had forced her to reevaluate her life choices. Richard cautiously relayed this conversation to us, careful not to pressure us into reconnecting with Vanessa. We appreciated his thoughtfulness but maintained our stance that we needed to protect our family from further drama. We told Richard he was welcome to have whatever relationship he wanted with Vanessa, but we weren't ready to trust her again. Last month, we received an official-looking envelope containing legal documents. Our first reaction was dread, assuming Laura or Vanessa was attempting another lawsuit. Instead, we found paperwork showing that Vanessa had legally changed her son's name to Marcus John, along with a notarized letter formally acknowledging that she had no claim to the name James William and relinquishing any objection to our use of it. There was no request for money or contact, just the documents. We were cautiously optimistic about this development but still wary of potential manipulation. We showed the paperwork to our lawyer, who confirmed it was legitimate and legally binding. A week later, Richard called with news that Laura had been released from jail and had undergone something of a transformation. The time in jail had apparently been a wake-up call. She had enrolled in anger management classes and was seeing a therapist. Richard suggested that Laura would like to apologize in person, but respected our restraining order and would only meet if we were comfortable. After much discussion, Penny decided she was willing to meet Laura in a public place with Richard present. I stayed home with James William, uncomfortable with the idea of exposing our son to someone who had caused us so much pain. The meeting was brief but significant. According to Penny, Laura apologized for her behavior over the years, acknowledging that she had favored Vanessa and failed as a mother to Penny. She admitted that her jealousy over the watch collection and resentment about Penny choosing to live with Richard had fueled her anger. Laura also confessed that she had encouraged Vanessa's inappropriate behavior toward me because she hoped it would break up our marriage. Penny listened to the apology but made it clear that words alone couldn't repair the damage Laura had caused. Laura seemed to understand and didn't push for immediate forgiveness. She gave Penny a check covering the cost of the watch box restoration plus additional money for the trouble caused, and asked only that Penny consider allowing her to know her grandson someday in the future. Penny returned from the meeting looking exhausted but relieved. She told me she didn't necessarily believe Laura had completely changed, but it felt good to hear her take responsibility for once. Penny decided to cash the check and donate the money to a family counseling center that helps children from difficult homes. As for Megan, she eventually reached out through another relative to apologize for her role in the harassment campaign. We acknowledged her message but maintained the restraining order against her. Some family wounds are too deep to heal completely. Mark and Vanessa are attempting to co-parent peacefully for their son's sake. According to Richard, who occasionally sees Marcus John during family gatherings, Vanessa is working to improve herself to regain more custody rights. We wish them well but from a distance. We've gradually relaxed our security measures as the harassment has ceased. Our social media accounts remain private, but we've resumed sharing photos and updates with trusted family and friends. James William is now 8 months old and thriving. He has Richard's smile and Penny's curious nature. The watch collection remains in a safety deposit box, but we've decided to select one special watch to be given to James William when he turns 18, starting a new tradition. The restored antique box sits on our mantle as a reminder of what we've overcome. While we don't anticipate having a close relationship with Laura or Vanessa ever again, the intensity of the conflict has subsided. We've established and maintained our boundaries, protected our son, and preserved our family's peace. Richard continues to be a positive presence in our lives, and we've strengthened connections with family members who supported us through this ordeal. Sometimes I think about how a family heirloom and a baby name, symbols of legacy and connection, became weapons in a battle we never wanted to fight. But I also recognize that the conflict was never really about watches or names. It was about respect, boundaries, and the kind of family we want to create for our son. For now, we're focusing on building that family, one based on mutual respect, honesty, and love. James William will grow up knowing his name has meaning in history, regardless of the drama that once surrounded it. And someday, when he's old enough to understand, we'll tell him the story of how we protected his legacy from those who tried to take it away. Thank you to everyone who has followed our story and offered support and advice along the way. Your perspectives helped us navigate a difficult time, and we're grateful. Now let's move to the next story. Story 3. My controlling mother-in-law is tearing our family apart and she doesn't want to accept it. So, when I stand up for myself, the whole family stands against her. I'm a 28-year-old woman, and I've been married to my husband Jeremy, 30M, for 3 years. We have a 2-year-old daughter, Emily. My relationship with my in-laws has always been complicated, but recent events have pushed things to a breaking point. To give some background, Jeremy's family is very traditional and close-knit. His parents, Robert, 60M, and Linda, 58F, have been married for 40 years and have 3 children, Jeremy, my husband, his older sister Sabrina, 32F, and his younger brother Tom, 26M. They're the type of family that has weekly dinners together and celebrates every holiday as a group. When Jeremy and I first started dating, I found their closeness endearing, but as time went on, I realized how suffocating it could be. Linda, my mother-in-law, has always been particularly challenging. She's a perfectionist and has very specific ideas about how things should be done, especially when it comes to family matters. From the moment Jeremy introduced me, I felt like I was being scrutinized. Nothing I did was ever quite right in her eyes. She'd make subtle comments about my cooking, my housekeeping, and later, my parenting. I tried to brush it off, telling myself she meant well, but it was always there, like a constant hum in the background. Things really started to go downhill after Emily was born. Linda became even more involved, offering unsolicited advice at every turn. She'd drop by unannounced, rearrange our kitchen, and criticize how we were raising Emily. Jeremy would tell me to ignore it, that it was just his mom's way of showing she cared. But it felt like a constant invasion of our space and our choices as parents. The real trouble started about a month ago. Emily had been having some behavioral issues at daycare, nothing major, just typical toddler stuff like not wanting to share toys and having the occasional tantrum. The daycare teacher mentioned it to me when I picked Emily up one day, suggesting we work on it at home. I didn't think much of it at the time, figuring it was just a phase. However, that weekend at the family dinner, Linda brought it up in front of everyone. She said she'd run into Emily's teacher at the grocery store, and the teacher had told her all about Emily's problems at daycare. Linda then proceeded to lecture me on my parenting skills, implying that Emily's behavior was a direct result of my inadequacies as a mother. I was stunned. Not only had Linda gone behind my back to get information about my daughter, but she was now publicly shaming me for it. I tried to defend myself, explaining that we were working on it and that it was normal toddler behavior. But Linda wouldn't let up. She went on about how when her kids were little, they never misbehaved because she knew how to discipline them properly. The worst part was that no one came to my defense. Jeremy sat there silently, looking uncomfortable but not saying a word. Sabrina and Tom avoided eye contact, and even Robert, who's usually the peacemaker, remained quiet. I felt completely alone and humiliated. After dinner, I confronted Jeremy about his silence. He said he didn't want to cause a scene and that I should just let it go. But I couldn't. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about our daughter and our right to raise her as we saw fit. The following week, things escalated further. Linda started calling Emily's daycare regularly, checking on her behavior and then reporting back to the family group chat. She'd send messages like, "Emily had another tantrum today. Maybe if her mother spent more time with her instead of working, this wouldn't happen." I was furious. Not only was this a violation of our privacy, but it was also completely inappropriate. I decided to take action. I called the daycare and explicitly told them not to share any information about Emily with anyone other than Jeremy or me. I also removed myself from the family group chat. When Linda found out, she was livid. She called me, accusing me of trying to keep her from her granddaughter and of being a controlling daughter-in-law. The situation came to a head last weekend at another family dinner. Linda announced to everyone that I had banned her from knowing anything about Emily. She painted me as the villain, claiming I was trying to drive a wedge between her and Jeremy's family. The accusations flew. I was ungrateful, I was causing family discord, I didn't understand the importance of family. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up and told Linda that her behavior was unacceptable. I said that Jeremy and I were Emily's parents, and we would make decisions about her upbringing. I told her that her constant criticism and interference were damaging our relationship, and if she couldn't respect our boundaries, she would be seeing less of us. The room fell silent. Then, to my shock, Jeremy spoke up. But instead of supporting me, he told me I was overreacting and that I needed to apologize to his mother. He said family was everything to him, and he couldn't believe I was trying to come between them. I left the dinner in tears, feeling betrayed and alone. Jeremy followed me, and we had a huge fight in the car. He accused me of being selfish and not understanding his family's dynamics. I countered that he was failing to support me and our new family unit. We've barely spoken since, beyond necessary communication about Emily. Now, I'm at a crossroads. I love Jeremy, but I can't continue living like this. The constant criticism, the lack of privacy, the feeling that I'm always the outsider, it's too much. Jeremy seems unwilling to set boundaries with his family, especially his mother. I don't want to break up our family, but I also don't want Emily growing up in an environment where her mother is constantly undermined and disrespected. I don't know what to do. Am I really the one in the wrong here? Should I just accept that this is how things are and try to adapt? Or do I need to take a stand, even if it means risking my marriage? I feel lost and could really use some outside perspective. Update 1: It's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and I wanted to provide an update on the situation. Things have taken some unexpected turns, and I'm still trying to process everything that's happened. First, I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. Your support and advice meant more to me than I can express. It gave me the courage to stand my ground and take some necessary steps. The day after I made my post, I sat Jeremy down for a serious conversation. I told him that I couldn't continue living this way and that something needed to change. I explained how hurt I was by his lack of support and how his mother's behavior was affecting not just me, but our daughter as well. To my surprise, Jeremy listened. He didn't interrupt or try to defend his family. When I finished talking, he was quiet for a long time. Then he told me something I never knew. Apparently, when Jeremy was growing up, his mother had been even more controlling. She had micromanaged every aspect of his life, from his clothes to his friends to his college choices. He said he had spent years trying to break free from her influence, and that's partly why he had moved to our current city, hours away from his family. Jeremy admitted that he had fallen back into old patterns since Emily was born, wanting to give her the close family he thought he had missed out on. He realized now that in doing so, he had allowed his mother to take control again, this time over our family. This conversation was a turning point. Jeremy agreed that we needed to set firm boundaries with his family, especially his mother. We spent the next few days discussing what those boundaries should be and how to enforce them. The next step was to talk to Linda. Jeremy insisted on doing this alone, saying he needed to stand up to his mother without me there as a target for her to focus on. I was nervous about this but agreed it might be for the best. Jeremy drove to his parents' house the following weekend. He was gone for hours, and I was a nervous wreck the entire time. When he finally came home, he looked exhausted but relieved. He told me that the conversation had been difficult and emotional, but he had stood his ground. He had told Linda that her behavior was unacceptable and that if she wanted to continue being a part of our lives, she needed to respect our boundaries. This included no unannounced visits, no interfering with Emily's care or education without our permission, and no criticizing our parenting decisions. He also made it clear that if she couldn't abide by these rules, we would limit our contact with her. Linda, according to Jeremy, had not taken this well at first. She cried, she accused him of not loving her, she tried to guilt him by bringing up all she had sacrificed for him. But Jeremy held firm. He told her that he loved her, but that his priority now was his wife and daughter. The conversation ended with Linda agreeing to try and respect our boundaries, though Jeremy said she seemed more resigned than truly understanding. Still, it was a start. The next surprise came a few days later when Sabrina, Jeremy's sister, called me. We had never been particularly close, but she wanted to talk. She apologized for not standing up for me at the family dinners and explained that she had her own complicated history with their mother. Sabrina revealed that she had been struggling with infertility for years, and Linda's constant pressure and criticism about her lack of children had driven a wedge between them. She said she admired the way I had stood up to Linda and that it had inspired her to start setting her own boundaries. This conversation with Sabrina was eye-opening. I realized that the image of the perfect, close-knit family I had been presented with was far from the reality. There were deep-seated issues and resentments that had been simmering for years. As for Tom, Jeremy's younger brother, he reached out to Jeremy to express his support. He admitted that he had always felt overshadowed by Jeremy in their mother's eyes and had struggled with feeling inadequate. He thanked Jeremy for finally standing up to their mother, saying it made him feel less alone in his own conflicted feelings. The past 2 weeks have been quiet on the family front. Linda hasn't called or tried to visit, which is both a relief and a source of anxiety. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, but trying to enjoy the peace while it lasts. Jeremy and I are working on our communication and rebuilding the trust that was damaged. We've started couples counseling to help us navigate this new phase of our relationship and to learn how to present a united front. As for Emily, she seems happier and more settled now that there's less tension in the house. We've been focusing on positive reinforcement for her behavior, and her daycare teacher has noticed an improvement. I know we're not out of the woods yet. Changing long-established family dynamics is a process, and I'm sure there will be more challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about our future as a family. I'll update again if there are any significant developments. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone again for their support and advice. It's been invaluable during this challenging time. The past month has been a roller coaster of emotions and events. At first, things seemed to be improving. Linda kept her distance, respecting the boundaries Jeremy had set. We had a few weeks of peace, focusing on our little family and working on our relationship in counseling. Jeremy was more supportive than ever, and I felt like we were finally on the same page. However, the calm didn't last. About 2 weeks ago, Linda called Jeremy in tears. She said she couldn't bear the separation and begged to see Emily. Jeremy, feeling guilty, agreed to a short visit at our house. I was apprehensive but decided to give it a chance. The visit started off okay. Linda brought Emily a new toy and seemed to be making an effort to be pleasant. But as the afternoon wore on, old habits started to resurface. She made a few pointed comments about the state of our house and how Emily's hair was styled. I could see Jeremy tensing up, torn between his instinct to keep the peace and his promise to support me. The breaking point came when Linda tried to take over Emily's bedtime routine. When I gently reminded her that we had a specific routine we followed, she snapped. She accused me of trying to erase her from Emily's life and said I was poisoning Jeremy against his family. Jeremy finally stepped in, firmly telling his mother that she needed to leave. After Linda left, Jeremy and I had a long talk. We realized that while we had set boundaries, we hadn't really prepared for how to enforce them in the moment. We decided we needed a concrete plan for dealing with boundary violations. The next day, we were blindsided by another family drama. Sabrina, Jeremy's sister, called in a panic. Apparently, after leaving our house, Linda had gone to Sabrina's place and had a complete meltdown. She accused Sabrina of siding with me and Jeremy, saying her children were abandoning her. In the heat of the argument, Sabrina revealed her struggles with infertility to her mother, something she had been keeping secret for years. Linda's reaction was not what Sabrina had hoped for. Instead of offering support, Linda blamed Sabrina's infertility on her career focus and modern lifestyle. She even suggested that Sabrina's inability to have children was punishment for not being a good daughter. Sabrina was devastated. This incident caused a major rift in the family. Tom, the younger brother, was furious with Linda for her treatment of Sabrina. He called Jeremy, ranting about years of manipulation and emotional abuse. It seemed that all the pent-up resentments and issues in the family were finally coming to the surface. Jeremy was overwhelmed. Seeing his siblings in pain and realizing the full extent of his mother's behavior was a harsh wake-up call for him. He suggested we invite Sabrina and Tom over to talk without their parents present. The conversation with Sabrina and Tom was intense and emotional. We shared stories of Linda's controlling behavior, the impossible standards she set, and the guilt trips she used to maintain control. It was the first time the siblings had ever openly discussed these issues, and it was both painful and cathartic. During this conversation, we made a surprising discovery. Tom revealed that he had been in a serious relationship for over a year but had been afraid to tell the family. His partner, David, was a wonderful man, but Tom knew their mother would never approve of him being gay. This secret had been eating away at him, and he broke down as he shared it with us. The four of us spent hours talking, crying, and even laughing as we shared our experiences. By the end of the night, it felt like a weight had been lifted. We agreed to support each other in maintaining healthy boundaries with Linda and Robert. Jeremy, Sabrina, and Tom decided to confront their parents together. They felt that a united front would be stronger and harder to manipulate. They planned a family meeting, excluding me and Emily for now, to lay everything out in the open. The meeting happened last weekend. Jeremy came home looking exhausted but relieved. He said it had been one of the hardest things he'd ever done, but also one of the most necessary. They had told their parents everything, the pain caused by Linda's controlling behavior, the secrets they'd been keeping, and the changes that needed to happen if they wanted to maintain relationships with their children. Linda and Robert's reactions were mixed. Robert seemed genuinely shocked and upset to learn how his children felt. He apologized for not protecting them more and promised to do better. Linda, on the other hand, alternated between defensive anger and playing the victim. She couldn't seem to accept that her behavior was the problem. The meeting ended with an ultimatum. The siblings made it clear that if their parents, especially Linda, couldn't respect their boundaries and treat their partners, including me, with respect, they would have to limit contact. They also insisted that both Linda and Robert attend family therapy to work on these issues. As of now, we're in a waiting period. Linda and Robert have agreed to try therapy, but I'm not sure how genuine Linda's commitment is. Jeremy and his siblings are cautiously optimistic but prepared for more difficult times ahead. As for Jeremy and me, this whole experience has brought us closer together. Seeing him stand up for our family and confront these long-standing issues has renewed my faith in our relationship. We're both committed to breaking the cycle and creating a healthier family environment for Emily. I know we still have a long road ahead, but for the first time, it feels like we're all moving in the right direction. I'll update again if there are any significant changes. Thank you all again for your support through this challenging time. Update 3. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in our ongoing family situation. The journey continues to be challenging, but there have been some surprising turns of events. First, the family therapy sessions that Linda and Robert agreed to attend have been progressing, albeit with mixed results. Robert has been actively participating and seems genuinely interested in understanding and improving family dynamics. He's even started individual therapy to work on his own issues, particularly his tendency to be passive in the face of conflict. Linda, on the other hand, has been more resistant. She attended the first few sessions but often became defensive or tried to steer the conversation away from her behavior. The therapist has been skilled in redirecting her, but it's clear that Linda struggles with accepting responsibility for her actions. About a month ago, there was a breakthrough of sorts. During a particularly intense session, Linda broke down and revealed some of her own childhood trauma. She spoke about growing up with an alcoholic father and a mother who was emotionally absent. Linda had vowed to be a better parent than her own, but in her determination to create a perfect family, she had become controlling and overbearing. This revelation didn't excuse her behavior, but it did provide some context and opened up a new avenue for healing. Since then, Linda has been more open in therapy, though she still has moments of resistance. As for our immediate family, Jeremy and I have been working hard on our communication and co-parenting. The couple's counseling has been incredibly helpful, giving us tools to navigate conflicts and support each other. Jeremy has been much more proactive in setting and maintaining boundaries with his family, which has taken a lot of pressure off me. Emily has been thriving with the reduced tension in our household. Her behavior at daycare has improved significantly, and she's become more confident and outgoing. It's amazing how children can pick up on and reflect the emotional states of the adults around them. Sabrina, Jeremy's sister, has had her own journey these past couple of months. After revealing her fertility struggles to the family, she decided to be more open about seeking treatment. She and her husband have started IVF, and the family's support, particularly Robert's, has meant a lot to her. Linda has been trying to be supportive as well, though she occasionally slips and makes insensitive comments. Sabrina is getting better at calling her out on these moments, which is a big step for her. Tom, the younger brother, finally introduced his partner David to the family. It was a tense event, with Linda clearly struggling to hide her disapproval. However, Robert surprised everyone by warmly welcoming David and making a genuine effort to get to know him. This positive response from their father seemed to take some of the sting out of Linda's cold behavior. There was an unexpected development last week that I'm still processing. Linda reached out to me directly, asking if we could meet for coffee, just the two of us. After discussing it with Jeremy and our therapist, I agreed, though I was apprehensive. The meeting was surprising. Linda started by apologizing for her past behavior. She acknowledged that she had been overly critical and intrusive, and that she had made me feel unwelcome in the family. She explained that her need for control stemmed from her own insecurities and fears, but she recognized that it wasn't an excuse for how she had treated me. I was initially skeptical, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But as our conversation continued, I saw a vulnerability in Linda that I had never seen before. She spoke about her fears of becoming irrelevant as her children grew up and started their own families. She admitted that her criticism of my parenting was more about her own insecurities than any real issues with how we were raising Emily. While this conversation didn't magically fix everything, it felt like a significant step forward. I was able to express my own feelings and set clear expectations for our relationship moving forward. Linda listened without becoming defensive, which was a first in our interactions. We ended the meeting with a tentative plan to have dinner together, Linda, Robert, Jeremy, Emily, and me, in a few weeks. It will be a test of sorts, to see if the progress made in therapy and our individual conversations translates to real-world interactions. As for Jeremy and me, we're cautiously optimistic. We know that changing long-standing family dynamics is a slow process with potential setbacks. We're committed to maintaining our boundaries while also being open to healing and rebuilding relationships. I'm proud of how far we've come as a couple and as individuals. Jeremy has shown tremendous growth in standing up for our family and working through his own issues. I've become more assertive and confident in my role as a wife and mother. Looking ahead, we know there will likely be more challenges. Family gatherings, holidays, and other events will test the new boundaries and dynamics we're establishing. But for the first time in a long while, I feel hopeful about the future of our extended family relationships. We're taking it one day at a time, celebrating small victories and learning from setbacks. Our main focus remains on creating a healthy, loving environment for Emily and strengthening our own relationship. Thank you all again for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and encouragement have been invaluable. I may post again if there are significant developments, but for now, we're cautiously moving forward, hoping for the best while being prepared for any challenges that may arise.